Since basically the beginning of time, we humans have been borderline obsessed with acquiring, cutting, and wearing big, beautiful gemstones. So it stands to reason that many of these crystals have some pretty intense and sometimes ominous backstories, including bankruptcies, epic battles, and untimely deaths. Many people still believe these gems caused the misfortunes of their previous owners due to a mysterious curse.
My grandfather thinks this town is cursed.
Now, of course, curses aren't real. I know, Buzzkill Natalie is at it again, but many of these stones that are allegedly cursed are currently living peaceful, non-cursing lives. Nevertheless, these stories continue to fascinate, especially because the actual origins of these stones are relatively unknown. One such stone is the Black Prince Ruby, named for King Edward of Woodstock, who was also known as the Black Prince. King Edward acquired the stone from a man known as Don Pedro the Cruel. Don Pedro got the stone from its original owner, the Sultan of Granada, when he murdered him and his entire entourage in cold blood. You can see why they call him the Cruel. Around the time Don Pedro gave King Edward the stone for helping him win a battle against his half-brother, the king contracted a rare illness that ultimately caused his death 9 years later. Monarchs who possessed the stone continued to experience disease, near death, actual death. The last of the British monarchs that kept the stone in his possession was Richard III, who wore it during the Battle of Bosworth, where he died. The stone is now set in the imperial state crown, and many believe the curse of the Black Prince Ruby persists to this day, causing a fire in 1841 and even the bombing of London in World War II. But maybe the stone isn't actually cursed. It's probably just mad because it's actually a spinel and we continue to call it a ruby. And continuing in the tradition of misidentified stones, the Delhi purple sapphire is actually an amethyst, and the lore surrounding it may just be the invention of author, scientist, and Persian scholar Edward Heron Allen. Heron Allen's daughter donated the stone to the London Natural History Museum shortly after her father's death. It was set in a ring formed to look like a snake. With the ring came a letter from Edward Heron Allen that outlined the stone's ominous history. In the letter, he claimed the stone was stolen from the temple of the god Indra during the Indian Mutiny around the mid-1800s, and it was brought to England by Colonel Ferris. Upon the colonel's death, the stone went to his son and then to Heron Allen. Heron Allen attempted to re-gift the stone to friends and colleagues, who all suffered what the museum referred to as a trail of suicides, apparitions, disasters, and failed careers. The lesson here? Don't re-gift. Just don't be that guy.
He recycled this gift! He's a regifter!
Edward eventually packaged the ring and put it in a safety deposit box, and instructed his bankers to keep it there until 33 years after his death. A message that failed to get to his daughter, who donated it to the museum just a year after he died. The museum curators and scientists believe Heron Allen made up the story to lend credibility to one of his short stories called The Purple Sapphire. Some even believe he commissioned the ring himself to match the one described in his story. It may be a little harder to dismiss the cursed claims surrounding the Hope Diamond. This stone is arguably the most famous cursed gem out there. Because of its gargantuan size and deep blue color, the stone was coveted by many throughout Europe. It was acquired in India and was sold to King Louis XIV. It passed through several French monarchs before, like my nice Ray-Bans, it was lost to history. Unlike my precious Ray-Bans, the stone resurfaced years later and eventually was sold to a collector named Philip Henry Hope. This is why we know it as the Hope Diamond. The stone passed through several other collectors until it landed in the hands of Pierre Cartier, who played up the cursedness of the stone to sell it to a socialite named Evelyn Walsh McLean, who believed unlucky objects were lucky for her. I guess the Hope Diamond saw that as a challenge, because after she acquired the famous gem, her son died in a car accident, her daughter died of a drug overdose, her husband left her for another woman and then died due to complications from alcoholism, and the newspaper her family owned, called the Washington Post, maybe you've heard of it, went bankrupt. And that's not fake news. The Hope Diamond has now taken a hiatus from destroying lives and enjoying a peaceful retirement in the Smithsonian, where it attracts over 7 million visitors a year. Do you blame your misfortunes on inanimate objects? Let us know down in the comments, and don't forget to like and subscribe. For more information on the topics we discussed today, check out the links below. Thank you for watching.